what we do know is that Antonio Conte, Danny, manager of a club you used to play for, Tottenham Hotspur, is now back in Italy. The big question is, are we going to see him again? We understand that after his post-match outburst at the weekend, off he's gone, and I think Simon can maybe put some more meat in the bones to this this morning. But as regards what happens now back here in London, of course, an international break buys people time. Life goes on at Tottenham. In comes Ryan Mason, who took the training yesterday, as we understand it, and is likely to carry on throughout this week in Conte's absence, which at the moment is temporary until we hear otherwise. Is Ryan Mason more likely to secure top four football than Antonio Conte?
I think probably.
Yeah,
probably. I mean, Tottenham's fixture list is really tough, so I don't think they're going to make top four whoever goes in there. I think it's a really tough fixture list. I think they'll miss out. I think Conte, it's time now. It's time. He's been overpaid and underachieved. He hasn't delivered. They sneaked into top four last season because Arsenal threw it away, which Tottenham have been in top four many times, so that's hardly an overachievement. They've gone out the League Cup to Forest. They've gone out the FA Cup Sheffield United. He's causing chaos at least 2 or 3 times a season with his attitude. The football's generally turgid. Nobody's enjoying watching it. Most Tottenham fans come on here. They have the odd good performance, normally a pragmatic win against one of the big boys where they sneak a 1-0 or whatever and hang on. Generally, the feeling about the place isn't good. It's not a football club that feels on the up. It's not a football club that feels harmonious. And I'm a believer that all comes from your manager. Now, the hierarchy support the manager, or fund him, but he's been well funded, by the way, so let's forget that argument, the amount of money he's had to spend. Most of the football clubs at the top, you're feeling like there's a feel-good factor and they're moving forward. Tottenham feels like it's going backwards. There's player disharmony for sure. We all hear different things. Players aren't having him. So,
and when you get to that stage, that's it.
Now, of course, at Tottenham now there's going to be, do they sack him? Do they wait to the end of the season? Is there a financial detriment to that? The most important thing is the future of Tottenham, not even than here and now. I know there's a financial to getting in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Feel-good factor about the place will go through the roof when he's gone.
Simon, what more, if anything, can you add to that this morning? Because it seems...
I think that's a very good analysis.
Things are standing still.
I think it's a very good analysis. I think he set the place on fire, doesn't want to be there. He's taken a flamethrower to the players. He's taken a flamethrower to the owners, and some section of the Tottenham fan base will say, well done, you. I've just written an article this week about Conte and his attitude and his outlook. And he exhibits the ultimate characteristics of a manager that gets paid far too much money for doing far too little. I thought he was a nailed-on winner. What he is anything but that in this current guise. I don't believe he was offered an opportunity at Tottenham Hotspur with the prerequisite being you've got to win the Premier League and you've got to win the Champions League. I believe he was probably told by Daniel Levy, we want to be competitive, we want to be in the top 4, win us the cup, and I'll give you the resources within that sort of range. And that's what he's been given. And I think we're at a stage now where what he wants is to say anything he can to get out the door, and he wants to get paid for doing that. And I think where they're likely to be is a discussion going on now about, the original discussion would be, in my mind's eye after the outburst on the weekend, which Daniel Levy has a sort of personality to be able to see past that. He's not interested in visceral emotions. He's interested in, can I get in the top 4? Right? And which gets me their best? Is it hanging on with this noisy twit and let him go at the end of the summer? Or is it staying and getting rid of him? Right? Which is the situation? Now, if it's gotten even worse behind the scenes and even more things have been said, then you've got a situation now where somebody should be fired for bringing the club into disrepute, rather than potentially having a debate about whether he's done enough to get paid off and get out the door, whether that's the conversation that's going on. If that's the conversation that's going on, if it's in my shoes and I was in the situ, he's done enough to be fired, and fired without compensation. What I would anticipate is the situation is that they're having a debate about how he leaves. And I would imagine, being a football manager, he wants to get paid.
What's he done to bring the club into disrepute, though, if you're going down that road?
Because if you've turned around and said that everything about this football club is wrong, from the culture of the fans through to the culture of the players, through to the outlook of the players, their expectations, what they play under, to the board that's run this football club for 20 years, it's never won anything, right? Those can be considered as factual observations. They can also be considered as something that perhaps formed part of your brief. What was your brief, Antonio, my little soul? Was it to come in here and win the Premier League? And was it to come in here and win the Champions League? And that was your brief actually to come in here to make Tottenham Hotspur competitive, to get them in the top 4? If that's what your brief was, what have you not been given to achieve that?
But by signing Conte, did Daniel Levy not know there and then, this is a guy who periodically, if he feels the need to, will speak his mind?
Well, there's speaking your mind and there's being destructive, right? And they're two different things. You get freedom of speech, like we talked about the other day with our mate Lineker, doesn't come without freedom of consequence, right? So here we are, you're speaking your mind, supposedly. You're playing into the malcontent from a section of Tottenham fans base that this ball, this club, they've got no backbone. We never win anything. It's always to do with the ridiculous running of Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis, right? That's the narrative he's playing into. There is no doubt that outburst on Sunday puts him into disrepute with the club. No doubt it wasn't constructive. How can you seriously, honestly, for all moments, put aside my owner's hat, suggest that anyone can explain why you lost to Sheffield United in the FA Cup, why you followed it up with a 1-0 defeat to Wolves, why you went out of the Champions League against a rubbish AC Milan side,
really,
and
Paul,
why you changed the side to go from 3-1 up against Southampton to 3-0 and then bring that out as something to do with the club ownership?
I think I know the answer to this. Would you sack him?
Yes. And I'd fire him with glee.
It's complete
and I'd take control of it, and I'd say to him, you're not getting a copper coin. In fact, what you're going to get is you're going to get a damages claim shoved right down your throat, you clever little...
Okay.
It's complete lack of respect.
I got it.
It's a lack of respect for the club and the people that employ him.
Yeah.
You show respect for the club that employ you. If you can't show respect for your owners and the club that employ you, how can you expect your players to show respect for you?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.